Hi there, Romans here and welcome to another music review. I review every album from a viewpoint of a musician, as I'm a singer, songwriter and a bass player for my own group Jakobe. And last year we have released our debut album called Pursuits in Life. What makes it unique is that it's a pretty heavy prog rock without guitars. Instead you have drums, bass, saxophone and keyboards. You can check out two of our singles on my YouTube channel. We're building our own monument and a studio live take of A Way to Oppose. In the description of both videos you will find all the information about where is the record available. It's available on all digital platforms like Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, iTunes, Amazon, Bandcamp, but also in this digipack version of a CD with a very beautifully illustrated 20 pages long booklet. So in case you want one, all you need to do is contact me via Facebook, Instagram or on mail or even through Bandcamp. And today I'm gonna talk about the new album from Noir called The New Routine.
Music review. Music review.
Noir is a Swedish alternative rock slash prog rock slash electronic kind of band. I probably wouldn't classify them as prog rock, even though they are releasing their album on one of the biggest, if not the biggest, prog label Inside Out. And I've discovered this band I think 7 months ago when they released their first single out of the record, Old Fashioned, and I immediately fell in love with this track. But one big mistake that they made at that point, from my point of view, was that there wasn't any information about when's the album coming out. And as the time went by I kind of forgot about that, because I'm a very strict album guy. I know that majority of people who listen to music casually, they don't care about records, but I do, and that's how I listen to music. So when there was no information about any upcoming album with this song, I kind of forgot about this band. And I remember that after a couple of months I went back to that feeling that I had when listening to that song, and I was like, gee, I wonder what was the name of that band. And of course, as I am a subscriber of Inside Out channel, they released another single and I was able to find out that the new album is coming out, and it came out on last Friday, so I think 5 days ago. I really love this record. This may actually at this point be one of the best records I've heard this year. So let's dive right into the review of this album that as of now I've heard 7 times, and I started listening to it for the 8th time, but I haven't finished it, so I will finish it after doing this review. So let's start. All songs on the album have a very similar structure. Usually there's some kind of a riff at the beginning, then you have verse, chorus, usually some instrumental part, sometimes a outro, and then there's chorus at the end. And throughout the review I will draw a lot of comparisons, because this record and those songs reminded me of the bands like Royal Blood, Biffy Clyro, Enzo Shikari, Prodigy, Tax the Heat, Muse, and even the Blade Runner soundtrack. But it all works really well. All those different influences just create a really enjoyable listening experience. The album opens up with the already mentioned Old Fashioned song, and when it starts with all that riffing, it is really very reminiscent of Royal Blood. And what I really like about this song is how old-fashioned, pun intended, the band sounds. It's like really that old school rock and roll up until we hear chorus, and the chorus sounds like from some electronic dance pop band, and the contrast is so huge. I'm usually not a fan of contrasts like that, but it works perfectly. This is a song that I can imagine on a rock concert, but also at the club dancing to some disco music. And the instrumental part kind of reminds me of Biffy Clyro, and I like that even in those rocking parts, in that riffing and in those heavy guitars, we still hear that fat synth underneath. The second track, Flawless, which is also a song they shot a music video for, is pretty much the same track in its composition. Again, we have heavier verses and then very poppy, electronic-like chorus, and those synth sounds are just amazing. I was absolutely blown away by these synth sounds because I haven't used any on my record, but I'm actually very tempted and very willing to use them on my future records because I just love those sounds. And I love how the synth sounds never feel too much on this album, like, you know, you feel that they just overblown the record with them, but it never feels like, I wish they did that more often. It's just the right amount. The only criticism I have about the track Flawless is where it's put on the track list, because these two songs probably shouldn't be next to each other, because then they kind of give an impression that you're listening to the same song again. Both are great, but I would probably not put them next to each other. The third track, Blow, is much more serious in its tone. Again, we hear great riffs, there's this totally electronic chorus, but with this song the contrast doesn't seem so obvious and so strong.
Fire on roller skates that turn us wild. They'll take what they ever find, and you'll be choking on a bottle, acting like it's on wherever you are.
Also, the instrumental part is really great, and it has what seems to be like a guitar solo. This is also another thing that I've noticed, that there are no guitar solos on this album whatsoever, only parts that are kinda like that. The fourth track, Champagne, has very super fat riff that reminds me of a British band, Tax the Heat, which I've listened to last year. And this is what I love about this track. It kind of seems like a combination of octaver and synth and poppy chorus. Again, there's not such a strong contrast as with the first two tracks. And then the industrial part actually reminds me of Prodigy, which is pretty cool. Then the track Low Lights. Again, I love those synth sounds. There's this amazing synth riff. And this is a song that has those Muse vibes, and it's a very poppy track as a whole, and I think that this would have made this will make in the future, if they decide so, a great single. I can really imagine this song being played on the radios.
I know you need to go. I said I know you're caught in. I thought that
13 is a much more traditional rock song, meaning that it's pretty much rock and roll since the beginning until the end, with some electronic arrangements that remind me of Prodigy, but apart from that, really amazing track. And then Young Bloods, for example, it has a hip-hop vibe.
we'll always sound like a weed still. No vaccine for it. We spread like a bad seed without a leash. Stack every wealth pile, their bodies.
It kind of reminds me of Enter Shikari, even though I don't think Portnoy really go to such an extreme length with the overlapping of the genres as Enter Shikari. But other than that, it's a song that again has a little bit of everything, meaning electronica, pop, rock and roll. Define Us is a track that serves as an opposite to the first two tracks, because it's like the other way around. We have poppy verses with a bit of electronics, and it has really like funky vibes.
Fix this. You don't stake no cause that's concrete. Turning back.
And then the chorus is much more in a rock style. And I also love that beautiful synth part at the end that brings Blade Runner soundtrack to mind. Drive is an old school rock and roll song with a really catchy chorus and really great guitars.
And yes, I will be apart for a while.
The last two tracks are kind of similar. Down for Delight and Out of Line are both rock songs with a bit of a Muse vibe, but maybe I wouldn't put these two tracks on the album, but I would experiment a little more if I were in Portnoy. Maybe I would write a 10 minutes long song that would be much more in the prog rock style, and I would experiment a little more with the songwriting, because these two tracks even though they are not bad, they sound kind of alike, and at this point you may kind of get a little tired from this record. So this is where I would probably do something more experimental, but other than that, I think that this is a very solid album. Production is great. The band has a funny name, Port Noir. If you don't pronounce it R at the end, you pretty much have the name of one of the most famous prog metal drummers. So as a musician, I found this record very inspiring, very fresh, very enjoyable to listen to, and this is really one of the best albums, if not the best album I have heard this year so far, so it will definitely rock my top 15 list at the end of the year. If you have never heard about the band, just as I have never heard about this band because this is my introduction to them, go check this record out. So what do you think? Did you like this review? Have you heard this album? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what do you think about it. If you are a Port Noir fan, you can let me know how well does it compare to their previous works and how different it is, because I've heard that it's a pretty different approach that they've taken with this record. If you like this review, don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. You can check out my own original music, my live performances, my worst to best series, and quite a lot of other reviews as well. So thanks a lot for watching.